Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. I just spoke to a client and we had a massive breakthrough. So last week we were talking about rejection, and I was saying to him that most people have the wrong mindset when it comes to rejection. They look at it from a spectrum perspective. So they think of it as, you know what, I don't want this sort of massive reaction or negative reaction, because if I can get that, then I will feel a lot worse about myself. And there's this sort of avoidance of this big, massive reaction. So therefore, when you put your effort, you're putting this effort hoping that, okay, if she does reject me, at least she might reject me a little bit less. So it becomes more acceptable. And this is more of a self-protection move rather than an actual attempt to connect. So it's at the expense of really connecting. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I learned this the hard way. And when you look at rejection from a spectrum, you never get the opportunity to actually fix anything when it comes to your game. And so I remember when I was I used to live in a place called Luton, and Luton is a small town that's close to London. And if any of you guys know, Luton is quite rough, but it's really close to London. And as we were learning our game, when you do get day game, the amount of ladies that you would see that walk were not that many that were cute, or at least ones that I thought were pretty. And then when you do night game, there was only a finite of people that you could go out and then see and then meet and at least try something. So we had relatively sporadic success in terms of picking up. But we knew that in order to take our game to the next level, we needed to get around more women during the day and then around more, women that we like. So we decided to move to London. So me and my friend moved to London, and for many days we had to experience a lot of rejections. So the first week when we did that, we started doing what we normally do in Luton. We were really pushing the envelope and trying hard to do our thing in terms of approaching women and picking them up, especially during the day. And we did this. We got rejection after rejection. And it got so painful to the point that we started changing a little bit of how we were approaching, because we started viewing this rejection as a spectrum. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try and minimize the rejection. And this was the mindset. We're trying to minimize the rejection. And by doing so, we were now doing things where we were bending our will in order to accommodate her. And again, if you've listened to this podcast for some time, you know that if you are afraid to polarize yourself from the conversation that you're having your own identity, having at least the courage to be yourself, the courage to be a leader, the courage to show that you are different, then the chances of you actually changing a sexual relationship becomes void. Because again, this is what we started doing. So it must have been 2 weeks in, because we just suffered so many rejections. So we started trying to mitigate it instead of really continuing being, for lack of a better term, alpha. So we would do these things where you'd open and start talking to her, and then you liking what she likes, and you agreeing to what she wants, and the conversation would become very bland. And by it being bland, while I was not getting rejected, I was not making any impact in terms of attraction. So there was this, because I was trying to mitigate rejection, because I was seeing it from a spectrum, I was taking the lower end of rejection, which is an absolute insane way of looking at it. Because when you look at it from that perspective, either way, it's still rejection. So your outcome, you're not getting the outcome. So it becomes a very important thing to just view rejection as a rejection, and whether there's an extreme reaction from the person that is negative, you take that as an opportunity to grow. And this is what we ended up doing, where we started realizing that we were in these good interactions, but it was never going anywhere. You'd get a number, it would flake. You would try and get a date, it would never happen, because I was bland. She wouldn't find anything attractive about me because I was trying to mitigate rejection, because I was trying to take the lower end of rejection, inverted commas. So we started doing this thing where we said, okay, we're going to take turns to go into set and not try and, you watch what I'm doing and then you critique that, and I watch what you're doing and then you critique that. And what that was, trying to do, we were trying to see that if we are going to get rejected, we have to go big with it. So I don't compromise who I am. I continue being bold. I continue being, lack of a better term, alpha. I continue being all of that. And if that doesn't resonate with her and she doesn't reject, or at least if she rejects me, that's okay. Because there was always another person I was going to go to. And really, the way we were measuring what we were doing was now not based on the rejection. In fact, the way we're viewing things was the rejection was the way. And that's how we started viewing it. Like, okay, if I'm going to get good at this, I'm going to have to experience a lot of rejections to get there. And because we knew that if I got rejected, I would go to my friend and then he'd tell me that your body language is a little bit weak, your voice tone was a little bit weak. The way when you said that was, a validation seeking, so you were trying to seek validation. Maybe you should have said this instead. And we started really breaking it down, and we started appreciating rejections more than successes. So sometimes the conversation would go well, you get the number, and it almost became this a little bit annoying that it went well because there was less learning. Of course, you enjoy the fact that you got the number and you're going to be seeing this person, but it got to the point that we started getting more pleasure from the rejection because there was so much to learn from it. And when I was speaking to this client, I started telling him this story, and you could see the penny drop. That because he's seen it from a spectrum, he was choosing the lower end of it. And by choosing the lower end, that means that he was having to change a lot of himself in order to accommodate his wife. And therefore, he was too bland when it came to seduction. And therefore, continued the cycle of sexlessness. So, made this episode to challenge you guys that you need to scratch the whole spectrum when it comes to rejection. Rejection is rejection. You have to be willing to take it so in order to grow, in terms to learn the skills to be better. And if it means, in fact, I spoke to a different client, and his wife gave him a very bad response. And I was saying to him, it's like, it was really annoying. I didn't like it. And I said to him, that's good. You want that. I prefer a massive negative response. And I'm using this in your terms. I don't view it as a spectrum, but I'm speaking in terms of the spectrum. I prefer a massive negative response because then it tells me where I am within that seduction process. Where am I? Like where am I? Am I getting closer to the goal where we are viewing sex on the same wavelength? If I'm not, then at least I now know that I'm not. So I now know how much work I need to do in order to bridge that gap. So again, most guys go into this process where they're trying to avoid it, or at least they do enough effort so they can get the minimal amount of rejection, which is, again, rejection on itself. And if you can ditch that, it means that you're going to be more potent with your behavior. Because when you focus on getting the lower end of the rejection, you have to alter your behavior in so many ways in order to mitigate her response, or at least to control her response. And when you do so, again, it's just a self-protection measure that you're doing, and that is going to just keep you in a sexless relationship. So hopefully that's something that's going to blow you guys' mind, because when I spoke to him, this guy just absolutely blew his mind. It's like, oh, holy shit, I've been fucking up because I've been looking at rejection the wrong way. Rejection is the way that you need. And I'm so glad I put it that way, because there's a book that I read recently called Obstacle is the Way. So rejection is the way. That's how you're going to get from sexless relationship to sexual success. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. Share with somebody who you know needs this to listen to this podcast. Share with the friends, comment, and just do all this good stuff so we can build a community of men that are going to be really, really successful, not just in the bedroom, but successful in life. Thank you very much. See you soon. Take care.